Hello, 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 and welcome back, family, to Masquerade Monday. My name is Huddy, and tonight we're talking LA by Night. Before I begin, this video is not scripted, and all of these opinions are all of my own, so please take what I say with a grain of salt. If the premiere episode of Season 4 had me hyped, Episode 2 had me on the edge of my seat for nearly 3 hours straight. This episode was another great example of Jason Carl's impeccable talent at storytelling, but I'm getting ahead of myself. After Episode 1 aired, I eagerly awaited the new teaser image for Episode 2, and luckily I didn't have to wait long. This time the image featured Kyoko, played by Faye Mata, her second appearance in a row this season, Greg, aka Daffodil, played by Vince Casso, and the family's favorite undead couple, Jasper and Eva, played by Alexander Ward and Josephine McAdam, respectively. Of course, my first reaction was pure joy to see all these great characters together for a session, but the joy quickly morphed to nervous energy when my eyes caught the title, Darkness Divide, and when I took more than a cursory glance at the teaser image, which featured Jasper and Eva facing away from each other. Alex Ward and Josephine McAdam's tweets about Episode 2 did nothing to assuage my worry, and my basic reaction the whole week was this. Stop blowing holes in my shit! As I said in the video I made about the first 3 seasons of LA by Night, I like to joke that I don't have any feelings, but I am 100% on the Jeva ship and ready to go down with it, whatever happens to these undead monsters in love. But I held it together, and at 5 a.m. on Saturday, I sat at my computer with my large coffee and bowl of muesli and waited for what I thought was an inevitable disaster. Fortunately, I was wrong about Jasper and Eva, maybe, but I was very correct about the impending disaster. But once again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Our scene opens with Jasper and Eva wearing the stunning crimson top we had seen in the cast photos in the premiere episode, waiting at a park just outside of Mystic Circle Books, the store owned by the Weird sisters Hester, Violet Luna, and Kyoko. Maybe it was still that nervous energy coming out, but Eva and Jasper seemed tense with each other. There wasn't that subtle ease that we had seen in Season 3. Likely it's due to the fact that we learned that they had isolated themselves from the rest of the coterie for the last few months, and that Eva is very clearly paranoid and stressed on a nightly basis. It definitely gave me the honeymoon is over vibes. Eva hands Jasper a potion similar to the one she had brewed for him in Season 2 when Jasper was badly burnt by Kyoko in the process of trying to extract the Weird sisters from the parking garage at the Grove. This one appears drinkable as opposed to the first one, which was just a poultice or a salve. Jasper and Eva are evidently waiting for Mystic Circle Books to close in order to get a package Jasper had been waiting for. If you don't recall, Jasper approached the Weird sisters in a Season 3 epilogue in order to ask them to repair the mirror he had smashed when Strauss and his associates invaded the labyrinth. The mirror that allows one to pass through it in order to gain access to the nexus of the labyrinth where the ley lines reside. Although Hester had told Jasper that she could repair it in 2 nights, it seems to have taken her much longer, months at the least, to fully repair it. Also, let me just say, the actors were plagued by an unwanted guest, namely a fly, that kept landing on all the actors for quite a long time. They were absolutely spot on and never broke character, with Jasper even proclaiming, "I hate this park, there's always so many flies here." Delightful. When the mortal shop clerk Lydia finally closed down and left, Jasper and Eva approach the shop and are excitedly greeted by Kyoko, who is so very happy to see them after all this time. Hester is also there, but is on her way out. She warns Kyoko to be back 2 hours before dawn, which Kyoko reluctantly agrees to. Shortly after Hester leaves, Lydia reappears, having forgotten her laptop. Kyoko quickly goes to retrieve it for her, and we get a charming little exchange where Lydia believes Eva and Jasper to be models for Gorefest magazine, and she simply fangirls over them and their dedication to their craft, prompting Jasper to reply, "We're method actors." Method indeed. With much pleading and begging from Kyoko, Jasper and Eva agree to let her tag along with them down to the labyrinth so that they can reaffix the mirror and test it out. Upon exiting the shop, however, they run into a familiar face, Greg Demetrios, aka Nellie G's ghoul codename Daffodil. He had apparently been tasked with tracking Jasper and Eva down and informs them that he would be willing to drive them with the mirror back to Jasper's haven and keep an eye on them. Jasper is clearly not happy about this, but he agrees to it anyway. Kyoko takes to Greg immediately until Jasper informs her that he is a former Second Inquisition officer. She then cancels him, to which Greg replies that he has no idea what that means. Can I just say how much I enjoyed the interactions between Greg and Kyoko? It was an almost instant big bro, little sis dynamic, and I was unliving for it. And of course, Vince Casso had me giggling all morning. His comedic timing is the best of the group. Yeah, I said it. As the four descend into the labyrinth, we once again get to hear Jason Carl brilliantly describe its macabre and unnatural state of being. Jasper places the mirror on the slab where it once was, and it magically reaffixes itself to the stone, and all appears to be as it should. Jasper retrieves the shadow key from his bag and uses it on the mirror to change the black opaque surface to reveal the nexus. Oddly, this causes a horrible reaction from the labyrinth, which damages all standing by the mirror, with Greg taking the brunt of it. No one knows why this happened, but my guess is that when Strauss and the other Tremere were in the labyrinth, he warded it or protected it in some way, and this was the result of that. Or more horrifyingly, Hester could have done something different to this mirror, but well, let's hope not. Upon peering into the mirror, the gang sees that the Nosferatu in torpor is no longer on his slab, which honestly was expected, and some papers and duffel bags are strewn haphazardly across the room. Using Sense the Unseen, Eva sees blood magic on one of the duffel bags, and Kyoko sees some sort of shadowy figure hidden in a corner. Jasper throws his backpack through the mirror to see if there's any effect, but all that triggers is a twitching from the duffel bag with the blood magic on it. Deciding to unzip it, Jasper and Eva activate Unseen Passage and head through the mirror. Eva fails her first rouse check here, the first of many for this evening, and Jason Carl's voice morphs into that of Strauss as her beast taunts Eva. After unzipping the bag, a severed hand with an eye affixed to it leaps out at Jasper, but is readily dispatched. However, seeing this, Kyoko and Greg head through the mirror to be of assistance if needed. Poor Greg also gets to experience the horrible, empty, loveless void that awaits all who travel through the mirror, and upon exiting, Kyoko asks, "Dude, did you cry?" Once they arrive, the shadow reveals itself to be a gargoyle. Fans of Bloodlines 1 know that Strauss is well adept at creating these fearsome creatures, and it moves to block the only exit to the room. The gargoyle speaks to Eva and Kyoko, remarking that they both carry the mark of Strauss, and that they will wait here for him to arrive. Eva snaps into action immediately, activating Zeus's Fury not once, but twice, and fails both rouse checks. Kyoko and Jasper are no slouches here either, and with their combined efforts are able to move the gargoyle away from the door enough for them to flee as the gargoyle slips himself back into the rock where he was hiding. With the danger supposedly behind them, Jasper takes Eva aside, clearly able to see her on the brink of a hunger frenzy, and offers her his wrist in full view of Kyoko and Greg. Eva feeds, taking 2 points from Jasper, leaving her at 2 and him up to 4. Seemed a little selfish to me, but not really out of character for a kindred, honestly. Jason Carl goes into great detail explaining how blissful this is for both of them. The pure peace of Jasper's vitae in Eva's mouth, and Jasper's absolute ecstasy at her bite. Kyoko is clearly not okay with this, or at the very least is confused by it, while Greg seems to take all of this blank body nonsense in stride. Greg is best school. Unfortunately, the danger is not over yet, as the gang heads back to Jasper's Haven with Eva using an Essence of Air potion and floating at the rear of the group. The gargoyle's arm shoots out of the ceiling, heading straight for Eva. Jasper's rapid reflexes come in handy here as he leaps and pulls the gargoyle straight out of the stone. Unfortunately, Eva activates Zeus's Fury once again, but Kyoko was already reaching for Eva to pull her out of the arm's reach, while Greg was reaching for Kyoko to shield her from danger. Kyoko and Greg suffer the effects of Eva's lightning and both are seriously wounded, Kyoko more so than Greg. Eva does her best to usher them towards the haven, while Jasper tries to break free from the gargoyle and fade from sight. Unsurprisingly, at 4 hunger, Jasper fails his rouse check and enters a hunger frenzy, and begins racing back into the labyrinth, burning a willpower to maintain some control and lead the gargoyle away. Eva doesn't want to let Jasper out of her sight and uses movement of the mind to bring him back to the front of the group like a telepathic bungee cord. Keeping a lid on his frenzy, for now, they make it to Jasper's Haven. Jasper gives Kyoko the potion Eva brewed for him, although he is quite injured himself at this point, and Kyoko eagerly drinks it, healing most of her damage. The singed hair, well, that will have to wait for tomorrow night. Jasper urges them to leave, but before they do, Greg gets a phone call from Nellie who asks him to inform Jasper and Eva that the Tremere are on the move, but she doesn't say how she knows this. I imagine this has to do with the fact that she is now Baron of Hollywood, but maybe we'll find out in a future episode. We all know how resourceful our favorite Toreador is. As Greg drives Kyoko back to the bookstore, they have a very cute exchange where Kyoko and Greg show a little vulnerability about their particular predicaments and their problems. I loved it. I hope they hang out again in future episodes. Jasper and Eva are left alone, and although Eva offers her blood to Jasper, he refuses, stating that in his current state, he doesn't know if he'd be able to stop drinking. He tells her that he is going for a walk, and will find someone to feed on who won't break the promise he made to her. The episode ends with a surprising appearance of Ebe, who demands, not requests, help from the poor, beat-up Greg, and claims Nellie already knows about it. Greg goes with her, and the vignette is a continuation of their adventure, a stakeout to Brentwood for reasons unknown. This is where the review ends and the opinions begin. I cannot overstate how much I loved this episode. Seeing Jasper and Eva on screen again was just a total delight, and Greg's character is a huge favorite of mine. I never would have imagined seeing these four in an episode together, but I'm so glad I did. I don't have too many opinions about this episode, but one thing that surprised me was the effect used when Jasper and Eva used their obfuscate discipline. I loved the use of the transparency effect in season 3, and as cool as this total disappearance was, I still want to watch the actors react to things when they are invisible. Maybe that's just me, but it certainly didn't stop me from enjoying the hell out of this episode. The only other thing I would want to discuss is this feeding between Jasper and Eva. Now, I understand that this is about as intimate as vampires get, kinda weird to see them doing it in front of other people, but there is nothing that compares to this type of exchange as a kindred. Now, in theory, I have no problem with this. In fact, I somewhat encourage this behavior. For a better reference, you can watch a video I made here all about Tremere, but just very briefly, as of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, the Tremere are no longer able to create blood bonds with other kindred through normal means. A Tremere can still bind mortals and ghouls, though the Vitae must be drunk an additional number of times in comparison to other kindred. This means that Jasper is in no real danger of becoming bloodbound to Eva. Eva feeding on Jasper is significantly more dangerous. There is nothing stopping her from becoming bloodbound to him, which I doubt Jasper would want. It's not clear if this is something they have done before, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it is. Josephine McAdam confirmed in the chat that the willpower roll she did after feeding on him was to resist the bond, which she passed, but we all know the dice are not always in our favor. If you haven't already, please go follow the World of Darkness Twitch channel and subscribe to them on YouTube. If you can, sub to their channel on Twitch and support their sponsors Backblaze and Level Up Dice. All links can be found in the description. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to me as well for new content every Masquerade Monday, and let me know your thoughts on Episode 2, Darkness Divide, in the comments. A special shout out to my first $5 patron, Skeleton King, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!